Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Katie Yankosik. We are working our way through my book, Recover in Color. Recover in Color is a year-long program, one lesson per week, and the book is not that big. Some of you are joining in and we're doing this together, which is very fun. Keep your emails coming. You can reach me at thegracetorecover.com, and at the website then you can get your copy of the book and you can send me an email. We're working on lesson number 28, which is in the category of emotional, no, it's in the category boundaries, of course, because the lesson today is stay in your swim lane. And this is the little picture that you're going to draw or color. I colored mine only to find out that the second lane swimmer, well, I guess all the swimmers are not in swimming suits. What kind of book did I write? So actually, those are beautiful. I love the illustrations, and that's by my friend Marta, who did the illustrations for me, and I thank her and I love her dearly. I've never met her because we work together through online platforms. So let's dive into stay in your swim lane. And it starts out, swimmers and Navy sailors are often reminded to stay in their swim lane. The meaning of stay in your swim lane is essentially to say, mind your business. Or like when I was little, mind your own beeswax is what my sisters and I would tell each other. Mind your own beeswax. And there is an author, I can't think of her name. She says there's only two kinds of business: my business and none of my business. So stay in your swim lane that we're going to work this week has to do with minding your own business and focusing on your lane. What's in your lane? Stay in your lane. It is a healthy lesson to learn in boundaries. We must manage what is in front of us, and we have to do what is required of us without getting in other people's lanes, crossing over. People say like, "Oh, you're stepping on my toes." You're getting, in the military, we would call it mission creep, where you start to do somebody else's job or somebody else's mission. In the workplace, we can drift out of our lane. We can take on projects or assignments which we need not trouble ourselves. Sometimes you point out an error at work, and then before you know it, you're trying to solve the problem and you weren't asked to do that. It may be that we want to know what's going on. We want to be so super helpful, but we can be pathologically helpful, and that means it just stops being helpful. We can make ourselves available to everyone who's coming to visit us during their breaks, and then we don't get our work done. We give away our time and our attention, and often those are the things we don't have time or attention to spare, but we give them away. We give them away. There is a saying that says we need to be needed. I need to be needed. And when that happens, someone's coming in your swim lane, you're in their swim lane, and before you know it, things are blurry and fuzzy, and you can start to get a little bit frustrated with that. In families, I've seen this happen where a family member is entirely drifted into the other person's swim lane, and it can end up causing difficulty and challenges in the relationships. It says some family members meddle in every dimension of another family member's business. And we have all experienced these lane violations, swim lane violations. And some of us have committed these violations. I would say that we all have had that done to us, and we've all accidentally, maybe intentionally, done it to somebody else. Boundary breaking behavior is crazy making. Before you know it, you're starting to feel a little bit of energy, negative energy, if you're taking over somebody else's stuff because you're assuming that they can't do it right or can't do it on their own, or if they're creeping into your lane, you start to get a little bit nutty. Our job is never to swim for someone else, but rather we're called to swim in a lane nearby with a good boundary, just like the boundary picture shows, and to give an example and to be an encourager for the other person. We want to show and demonstration, what does a healthy swimmer look like? Whether family or friend or coworker, we can help, we can teach, and we can and should encourage one another. But if taken too far, we become overly invested and we end up caught up in the issues of another person's personal life to the expense of not having focus and energy for our very own life. It's a little mini tragedy if you think about it. You get caught up, and I'll share more later on in this video about what that looked like in my own life. When we drift from our swim lane to another's, we exercise energy and effort to control the other people or the person or multiple people. We're trying to make things happen for them, and nothing's going on in our swim lane because we had to suspend our stuff in order to help them. Controlling another will throw us off course, and that will throw them off course too. Help others only if you can maintain the boundary. Help should not become control, but it's tricky because help can become control. Proper help should look more like influence and encouragement. If you really think about it, sit back and think, am I being a helper? Am I casting an influence over this person that I want to help? Or am I drifting into their lane and starting to swim the race for them? Am I doing things for them that they could do for themselves? I'm a grateful member of Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, and in the family member programs, they even have a little worksheet. It's in one of their little material booklets where it's called help when helping is not helpful, something to those lines. But it's like you can go from helping them to taking over and trying to control or coerce them. And you're trying so desperately to get sobriety for them, but you can't do it. It just makes you crazy if you try. This week, avoid the temptation of being others focused, because that's at the root of it. The root of it is you're vacating your own lane, your own self, your own purpose. You're giving up in a way. You're ghosting yourself. You're vaporizing out of yourself, and you're becoming others focused. There's lots of potential reasons why. I can't give a good granulated discussion on that now for the scope of what we're doing together with the workbook, but there's lots of reasons why we do that, and we become others focused, and before you know it, you're not even in your swim lane. You're in their swim lane, and now you've crowded them out, and you're frustrated with them and they're frustrated with you because the boundary is gone between the two lives. Do not spend your energy worrying and interfering with others' business. Remember what I said. There's two kinds of business. I didn't say it. I'm quoting another lady. There's two types of business: my business and none of my business. Get clear about your boundaries. Clear boundaries benefit everybody. 2 swimmers in one lane is 1 swimmer too many. With honesty, examine what tasks are in your lane this week, and spend your attention, your time, and your emotional energy accomplishing each task with as much gusto as you can. Focus on your own race. What do you have to do this day? What are you doing? Set an intention and do it. What are you doing this week? What about this month? I get to where you're at the end of the month. You got 5 days left of the month. Do you ever had that feeling of, I said I would do this before August is over, and I'm staring down at Labor Day in early September. What am I going to do? When you are free from the job of managing others, you are free to do the job before you, the job in your swim lane. Stay in your lane, swim your race. Influence others, do not control them. Influence them. Influence is far better than control. I'm not talking to moms out there. You want to influence your children. You've got late middle schoolers and teenagers, high schoolers. Stop trying to control them. Stop swimming in their lane for them. Influence them and swim your lane. Let them see you as a healthy adult getting after what God has for you. All right, now we're going to go under personalize the lesson. Think, feel, do, and memorize. Think. I have things to deal with in my swim lane. I have enough energy here to manage what I need to get done. I will keep my mental energy focused on myself and my business. So when you're getting out there and you're doing stuff with your kids or you're meddling in other people's stuff, come back and think clearly. I have enough energy to manage my stuff. I'm going to stay in my lane today. Feel. I feel happy to influence others by living my life in a positive way. It is very encouraging when you know that you're influencing somebody in a positive way. Try it. Try thinking about how you show up within your family. Is your energy right? Picture a swim lane. If you have a big family, picture everybody having something to do. Are you doing what you're supposed to do? I feel thankful for the freedom to just live my life. I feel relieved that I can kindly decline the unhelpful help of another who's trying to control me. This is a little bit of a different lesson of trying, if someone's in your swim lane, how do you tactfully reinforce that swim lane boundary? How do you re-tack it up? And I did another video, which will be linked to the channel, on front porch people. There's 13 lessons in this book on boundaries. We're in the boundary section today with this one. Okay, do visualize yourself in a swim lane, loving the life race set before you. Think about your life as a life race. None of us knew when it was starting. We were born and dropped into a swim lane. And none of us know when our race is over. But can you love the life race that you have? What's in your path today? Can you love it? Keep your eye on your life. Spend your energy pursuing the purpose that you are called to. I feel like I have to sneeze. Okay, and the memory verse for stay in your swim lane is, let us lay aside every weight. Every weight, every weight, every weight. When I was coloring, I was thinking, every weight, every weight. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. That's coming from Hebrews 12:1. Run with endurance. I was also thinking about this because I used to be a runner. There's a difference of running for speed. I used to run the 400, one lap around. It's different when I would do run with endurance because I would run the Army 10 miler. That's a different race than the 400. 400, wide open. You're done, you're done. 10 miles, you're running with endurance. You're not blasting out in that first quarter mile. You have to pace yourself for the long course. So this is thinking about laying aside every weight and coming out of the sin that so easily ensnares us. Do you ever notice how quickly a sin will ensnare you? Name a sin. Think about how easily it is to be ensnared by it. But this verse is saying it's like mutual. Let us run with endurance that race set before us. All right, and then the questions. We're going to go to the back of the workbook, and if you're there, it's page 114, and there are 4 questions and a song. The song this week is I Give You Control by 10th Avenue North. The first one, describe a time when you became overly invested in someone else's life to the detriment of your own. And this really is the beginning of my recovery story. I was so invested in my little sister, Kristen, who I love dearly and to this day is my best friend. We are 11 months apart. We're Irish twins. I'm February 4th and she's December 28th of the same year. So 2 babies plopped in a crib, raised up together. And I've been, I always picture my mom like saying, don't hurt the baby when I was still a baby. Don't hurt the baby. And watch the baby. I did that my whole life. I was basically born to be a codependent. And so my life was so hung up on Kristen's sobriety and her stability and her sanity and everything that my life evaporated. And I was absolutely bottomed out crazy, making my husband drive me to her apartment to sneak in and steal her garbage and drive to a nearby field and splay it out to see if there were alcohol bottles and bank ATMs where she was withdrawing money for drugs. And so I was absolutely not swimming my life. I was not even in my swim lane. I was in hers entirely, which was messing up her ability to actually get clean and sober. And my life was consumed. So thank you for the program that set me free. And thank you to God for a spiritual awakening. Number 2, who is most likely to drift into your swim lane and how has that affected you? Well, this is kind of just a little silly example, but I would say my husband of almost 30 years is more likely to come into my swim lane. And we just had this discussion probably 2 weeks ago because he I did a quick shower, non-shower, just sort of wash up and salvage my hairdo from the day before. And he questioned me, oh, you didn't shower? I thought you were going to shower. And that bothered me. It felt like an encroachment from him coming from his lane into my lane. And I kind of snapped. I was like, let me just assure you that I'm an adult and I can go in the bathroom and make decisions about my personal hygiene. And based on my time and what I'm trying to do and when I'm going to exercise later today and everything. So I kind of reestablished the boundary, and he didn't even know he had lane violated me. And he was like, I'm really sorry. I understand you're 50, you can almost 50. You can make your own decisions. So that's a silly but truthful example, because I was a little bit like, I think it had been the third time he had asked me in like a scope of months of, oh, you didn't shower? Because it made me feel inadequate, or maybe I had made a wrong decision, or is that gross that I didn't shower officially? So it made me doubt myself. And you want to notice that when someone is questioning you and they're infusing a self-doubt, that's an early indication that they're coming out of their swim lane and pressing into yours. I'm not saying that people can't, dialogue with you and that everyone's unquestionable for their actions, but that's my example. All right, number 3, moving on. What can you do this week to focus your time and energy on accomplishing things for your life's benefit? So a long time ago, I got off of I was on Facebook, social media. Like in 2012, I deployed with the Army, and I tried to get back on it when I got redeployed back to the US. It didn't work out for me because I was too overwhelmed. And I mean, who really does have 400 and some friends? You can't keep up with it. So that helped me to just limit it. Now I'm careful if I look at my husband's social media or something, or my kids, and I'm super careful with it. And you may make that decision this week too, that to be less others focused and really put in front of you what you have to do. How can you run with endurance the race set before you if you're so blurry about what your race even is? So that's one. The other thing for me is I like to walk and plan what I'm going to do for the day. Take a walk either the night before or the morning of, and really solidify in my mind, what is the race I'm supposed to run today? What are the intentions of my heart for that day? What does God have for me in purpose that day? And then the last one, use the space below and write out a personal commitment statement to reduce your efforts in controlling or managing another person's issues. That's a long, wordy question. But my statement I wrote, if I have a grand idea for a solution for someone else's life, I will only speak it if they ask me for it, which is rare. Does anyone really ever come up to you and say, I just wonder, were you thinking about me? Were all your thoughts consumed with me and my life? Do you have anything you want to share since you've been thinking about my issues all day? No one has ever said that to me. And so the other part of my resolution is otherwise, in other words, if they don't ask me to solve all the problems in their life, otherwise, I will pray for that person and trust that God is actually the real guide, not me. That's my statement. And that sounds funny that I would even think that. But sometimes as moms, we think we know what's best. And we start to get a little bit of, wanting to direct things and put things together. So that's my statement. Thank you so much for being with me. I'm having a blast going through this. Please send me an email and comment below. I'd love to dialogue with you guys. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.